Welcome to the iATAC Soccer Podcast, an educational resource for parents and players focused on soccer development.
We sit down with top players, coaches, and industry experts to explore their journey to greatness in the game. Our mission is to provide insights and guidance to take players and coaches to the next level. I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Chris Martinez. Together we have a combined 50 plus years of coaching, training, and playing experience, spanning from youth soccer to the professional level.
Today we're thrilled to welcome Tom Stone, the head coach of Texas Tech women's soccer program and one of the most respected figures in collegiate soccer.
Tom's journey in the game spans decades, from his playing days at Duke University, where he scored the winning goal in the 1986 National Championship game, to his coaching career that has included leading Texas Tech to a Big 12 championship in 2023 and multiple NCAA tournament appearances. With a track record of turning programs around, most notably transforming Texas Tech from one of the bottom teams in the Big 12 to a powerhouse, Tom's impact on the game is undeniable.
In addition to his collegiate success, Tom has also served as an advanced scout for the U.S. women's national team at 2 World Cups and has coached at nearly every level, including youth, professional, and national team settings.
In this episode, we'll explore Tom's coaching philosophy, his approach to player development, and the strategies behind his sustained success. Whether you're a coach, player, or parent, this conversation is packed with insights and guidance that you won't want to miss. We're super excited to have Tom Stone with us here today. It's an amazing journey that you've been on, from a player to where you are now as a coach. And what's great for Mike and myself, we're all former teammates, and just to see your ascension in the game and everything that you've done is very impressive, and we can't wait to hear more about it today, Tom.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I appreciate you lumping me in with the two of you as players. You were both better than me. The game has its own voice, and it sent me to coaching before it sent you guys to coaching. Y'all had a longer career.
Well, thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. But I love playing with you, and as a former teammate, I always gravitated to you because you had, just a great player and a great personality. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about your journey. I know a lot about your journey as a player, but it's going to be really fun to talk to you about just your coaching. And like Chris said, we've admired what you've been able to do. Hey, if you don't mind, I want to jump straight into something that I have on my mind. And there's only so many slots in collegiate soccer on the women's program, and obviously you have one of the top programs in the country. And there's a lot of parents and players that are out there right now, young players and the parents trying to say, how do I get to a program like Texas Tech? And so I'm going to ask you a question that's probably not a question that's asked this way, but this question is going to go towards recruiting and gaining your attention and losing your attention. But my question is around the things people do as a player. You're a good player, but you're all of a sudden not recruited by Texas Tech because you've noticed some indications or indicators or things in your process that say, no way, I'm not spending 4 years with this player. So what are some indicators that people should really watch out for that top coaches are looking for when it could be a great player, but you're just like, nope, I'm not going to take that player?
Well, first of all, parents need to know that this happens. What you're talking about happens all the time.
Okay.
I was in Florida for 4 days last weekend at the GA event. I was at the ECNL event in Dallas. It happened in both events. If it happens for me, it's happening for other coaches. And I don't think you have to be overly critical. You give these young ladies some grace for being 16.
Yeah.
They can be really wound up like a topper. There are 200 coaches sitting there. They can be emotional. All those things are fine. But we all have the same process. We all hear about players. We get video from players. We get emails from players. So we have this master list, and then we're going to go watch their game. But if I'm going there to watch 4 players that wrote us from, let's say, FC Dallas, I'm not just watching those 4, right? You're taking the whole game in. And many times you go to a game to watch a player who's written you a nice note and with some great video, and she's okay, but you find out her teammate's awesome, and then you start recruiting her. But during the process of that the event and of the recruiting, there's certain things that, man, it's a non-starter. Body language is probably on the top of the list. There's several issues. Every time they make a mistake, if they throw their hands in the air, if they put their head down, if things aren't going well, they start pointing at their teammates, complaining to everybody, their interaction with their coach. I would be a hypocrite if I cared too much about their interaction with a referee, but we do pay a little bit of attention to that. You know, we don't need them getting kicked out. And then we'll go so far as to make sure that if we really like a player and we're kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure about her character or her personality, I will watch them all the way to their parents. And then all the way, maybe if I'm walking out with them, I'm kind of keeping an eye on how that interaction is going. You know, is mom or dad who never played soccer immediately their coach telling them every single thing they did right or wrong? I don't want any part of that, right? And is the player disrespectful of her parents? I don't want any part of that, because here's the thing. All the things we're seeing, guys, I'm picturing this player in a Texas Tech uniform.
Right.
Okay.
You're picturing that guy in a Clemson uniform, right, Marty?
Right.
And you're thinking, how is that going to be when she's acting like that, wearing this? And I always tell our players here, I'm like, look, you were selected because we felt like you'd be great ambassadors also. You got to be a great player. Like, bottom line, you cannot be recruited just because you're a great kid. You've got to be a talented, super talented player. But there are so many things that can get you scratched off that list so fast. And some of the things that are emotional or just uber competitive based, that's where we have to kind of be, you know, we pretend to be sports psychs a little bit. We kind of see through that. Well, I kind of like the fact that she's, you know, bothered right now that her team is losing. I can manage that. I can hopefully, you know, help coach her through that. But just plain disrespect, terrible body language, you know, not getting back on defense, not really caring once the game's out of hand. We have a rule on our staff, guys. If we really like somebody, we're trying to make a final decision, I say to the staff, listen, you're at one of the games where her team is getting it handed to them, where they are getting their butts kicked. Call me immediately. I want to see that game, because I want to know what she's going to do. We're going to be down. We are going to be in games. We're going to be losing at some point.
Right.
And how do we react to that? Brooke Denisek, who's like a 9-year pro for us, we were trying to make a final decision on her. She's in Arizona. And Todd, I think it was Todd Schulenberger, said, get over here. Brooke's down 3-0. I make my way across the field. She, at center back, she scores a set piece to make it 3-1. They move her to center mid. She scores another goal to make it 3-2.
Yeah.
She's like rallying her team and encouraging everyone. They put her up front in the waning moments. At the death, she scores to make it 3-3. She's completely exhausted. I offered her a Cadillac right after the game. I'm like, here is a brand new convertible Porsche. It's yours.
Let's go.
I love this guy.
West Texas roads, but we'll give you another one if you don't like this one. I mean, I was sold, and you know, sure enough, she brought that whole attitude to us, and we were the beneficiaries of the character that she showed on those days. So there are a lot of ways to get your name scratched off the list. There is no doubt. And we watch more than these girls think. You know, you never know when we're going to show up. We'll show up for 15, 20 minutes of a game because she's on. We'll show up for a half if the keeper, for example, is splitting time. We show up for warm-up. Our goalkeeper coach does not recruit a keeper. He hasn't seen her warm up, because it says a lot about their attitude, their preparation, their intensity, all those things. So there's a lot of stuff that maybe they don't realize we are watching, maybe away from the game, away from the ball, that can really determine their fate.
I mean, just think about what you just said. The challenges that you're looking at, how they're reacting to challenges. I mean, for a family, there could be a $200,000 scholarship on the line, and it really matters what's going on and how you conduct yourself. And I love how you answered it. I couldn't agree more. You know, when they're in the battle like that, you know, what's coming out. And I tell you, people out there in business, you know, we're always looking for the same thing. I mean, this translates to life, right? How are you handling challenges in life? And if you're not taking ownership, or you're pointing the finger and all this other stuff, well, you know, probably in other facets of life where there's performance, you're probably underperforming. So that's a really, I love that. So thank you for that insight.
Well, you guys are welcome. And here's the other thing, guys, is it's more important in 2025 than it has ever been. The communication stream between players, coaches, administrators, athletic directors, the camaraderie, the fundraising, the getting in front of donors, the whole representation of your team brand is bigger than it's ever been. So you just can't afford, if you got this great chemistry and your culture's good and you really like the vibe of your team, you just can't risk it. You're like, God, what's it going to be like? I'm sitting and, I left one thing out. If I'm really high on this player and I'm kind of wondering what's going on, I will go find their parents and stand around them during the game. And they don't really know it. I'm not like
And they
stalking
don't
or
even
anything,
know
but
it.
I'll be like, hey,
Eavesdrop.
the lady that, hey, the lady that hands out the brochures?
Right, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I'll be like, hey, can you point out number 17's mom? And she's the mom screaming at her daughter, screaming at the ref.
Oh,
The
no.
dad's running up and down the sideline. When she kicks it, he kicks. I'm like, no chances that's sitting in our stadium. I cannot handle that. I don't want to handle that. So the parents can really wreck it. And on visits, it's the last thing we'll say about this. You guys take what you need on this. But on visits, think about this. We've already decided that she would look good in our uniform in all the character ways. We've already decided she's an excellent player. We are professionals at deciding what's good enough for our team. Player comes on a visit, and the entire 3 days, all the dad does is tell me how good his daughter is.
Oh,
Like,
boy.
with all due respect, sir, we just spent $4,000 on the last 3 days for your daughter. We know she's good. Stop telling me how good she is.
So
We love her.
Yeah, you don't have to keep selling her. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got it.
No, we're
Right,
sold.
right.
That's why you're here. We're not
Right.
spending this money to see if she's any good. We've already determined she's good. Now we want to see if we like her, and we want to see if she likes us.
Right.
Because in all fairness, I think a lot of the things that I'm saying are go in reverse order too, right? The player has to decide whether they like the players on your team, the coaching staff, the atmosphere. So it's a two-way street. But yeah, all those things are big in recruiting, and they've never been bigger.
Let's touch on the opposite end of that spectrum. What are some of the non-negotiables that you're looking for as you're recruiting players, how they fit into your culture, everything along these lines, Tom?
Well, the easy answer is obviously the baselines. Players have to be technical enough to fit at each level. Whatever you determine those levels are, you've got to know she can play at the level that our team is playing at, and she might help us get to that level technically at the level we want to play at. Right? We lost
Right.
2 years ago, 1-0 to North Carolina in the Sweet 16 to go to the Elite Eight. That was an extremely technical team. We're playing the 22-time national champions, here at home. That team is unbelievably technical. The second part is there's a soccer IQ that's got to fit the level you're at. And like in the case of Sam Courtwright, our superstar freshman, she's the Big 12 Rookie of the Year, U20 World Cup team. You got to have those players with super high IQ, soccer IQ. And we could probably do a whole podcast on what creates soccer IQ. And it's not just natural. It is natural, but you got to watch the game. You got to watch yourself. You got to clip video. You got to ask for conversations with your coaches. Hey, what should I have done here? I know you barked at me in the game that I could have made this decision or that decision. I didn't. Here's the video. Can we walk through it together? They got to be actively pursuing their education, their IQ. The Champions League games, every game that's on, you got to be watching soccer, man, if you want to be an elite player. And not enough women watch it, to be fair. My daughter, same thing. It's not enough girls watch it. And so there's a baseline there. And then, of course, there's the athletic baseline. And this is where it gets tricky, because if you have the right team and you're athletic enough and a player is unbelievably technical with a super high IQ, she might be okay if she's not your fastest, not your quickest. She needs to be strong, but there's got to be some athletic element in there that sets her apart. Like, you can be 5'2", and you can be a lot of things and maybe think, oh, she's not going to be very imposing. But if you're fast as lightning, game changer. And in the women's game, it's speed and agility. Anson Dorrance will tell you it's agility. He obviously has recruited speed and agility his whole life. Those are the two things. You find a point guard in the WNBA, they all can cross you over. They can all change on a dime. Like, the best women athletes are so agile, as are the men. So there are those baselines. Now, outside of those non-negotiables, the number one thing for most of us is, how competitive are you? Do you care about winning in practice? Because if you don't care about winning in practice, I'm probably going to have to talk you into caring about winning on game day. And I don't want to have to talk you into that.
Great point.
That's why
right?
I was that's what I was saying about the emotional. If they're upset after a loss, I'm fine with that. You should care. You shouldn't be laughing within 3 seconds of losing the national championship, or a big tournament game or whatever. You should be having some reflection, and it's okay to be bummed out after the game. It's okay to be upset after the game, but it's not okay not to be competitive. This is our job, and our job is to win, and our bosses want our teams to be successful. And if you have a team full of talented, fast players that have no drive to win, you're not going far at all. And one of the beauties of coaching in college is, if you are uber competitive, you might overcome some of those flaws that you have.
Right.
You might overcome them because your team is just absolutely ferociously committed to the end result. And I know when we get into youth soccer, we can talk about the whole battle of, development versus winning and all those philosophies. But in college, you've got to be competitive. And that's one of the things we look for. If you're not competitive, we're out. And by the way, you know how we can find out some things about these players? I didn't even touch on this, is the whole social media aspect. What they put out there is what we're going to assume they want us to see. And if the things we see on social media don't agree with our kind of mantra and our standards here, then we're out. We're out pretty quick on that. We have to actually sign documents that tell our bosses that we have done our due diligence on social media and that we've called at least 3 references for character before we offer a scholarship. So that's probably pretty telling.
That's amazing. So I wanna take everything you've done and dovetail it into basically I'm gonna call it free agency. So we've got the portal out there, and it's changing the game, and I'm sure it's changing maybe how you have to coach and what you have to bring to programs. How is the portal and that whole aspect? So we've talked about landing a player you really liked or like, and then all of a sudden that player's in your program, and there's the portal. There's that opportunity to say, well, maybe it's not what I want. Maybe I want to move on. How are you guys looking at the portal? How do you guys navigate around that? What kind of changes has your program? As a coach, what are you looking at in terms of how you might have adapted to the portal? The portal's a big deal.
Yeah, so there's internal and there's external. And in the internal world of the portal, there's a lot of different conversations out there about
Okay.
people are afraid to coach them hard. People don't want to push a kid too much. People are afraid if club soccer, same thing, right? You don't want to go across town to the Rapids if you're Rush or vice versa. And so coaches have backed off in some ways. And I think if you were over the top critical all the time, that's probably a good back off because you shouldn't have been
Right.
anyway.
I
But if
agree.
you're just coaching kids tough, if you're like, look, the kid's not a starter, I'm not starting her so she doesn't leave, like
Mhm.
that ruins the team. The rest of the team looks at you and is like, what are you doing?
Right.
You're afraid she's going to leave, so you're starting her? No, she's got to earn it. So there's the internal way, I think, of just continuing to check yourself, talk to your staff, be like, guys, we got to coach them hard. We got to make them competitive or help them be competitive. We got to celebrate their competitive successes. And if this isn't the program for them, then that's understandable.
Right.
I think if you care about them, though, this is the Gen Z world, and now we're moving into the next one. If you care about them and you've established like parenting, and you establish a trust, and you establish like a really good base of he's in it for me or she's in it for me, then you can be tough because they can take it. If all you are is tough, if all you are is this distant sitting up in a big ivory tower, preaching down to them, I think you lose kids now, whether there
Yeah.
was a portal or
Sure.
not.
Yeah, I
So
can't. You know what, Tommy? For me, I mean these words are truth. I mean, if you're a coach that was distant or a coach that was overly critical, you know, players get into a situation. It might have been a recruiting thing, and they get in there, and it's just like, hey, the recruiting visit was great, but maybe I made the wrong decision. And then they're in that program, and those types of trends and characteristics are coming out. But then the portal could actually be a really good thing for a player to move on because it's not the right fit. But
that's right.
everything that you said makes a ton of sense for someone that's a competitive player that wants to win. And they're going to come into a program like yours, and they're going to say, it's not like I have to play soccer, man. I get to play soccer here. It's a mindset. It's like, I love playing soccer. I want to be here. It's like the last thing they're going to think about is wanting to leave because the environment's competitive. There's going to be a lot of winning, obviously a lot of development. And then, just overall, just the support of everybody in the community and how you built that program. It's going to be an honor to play for your program. And that's what players want. So I think you're looking at it the right way. You check yourself, but I don't think you're making a ton of different changes because you didn't have to, and I like
That's
that.
the idea, and it is all about making that relationship first. And once you have it, it's good, and it's a two-way street too. The players need to know if this is the way it's going to be. If the coaches are going to be open and honest and transparent and tough on me at times, then the players have to know they can come in. I mean, Macy
Yeah,
Blackburn's our
for sure.
captain. Macy's never had a problem walking in and going, you know what, Tom? I think you're too tough on the team today. Or, you know what, Tom? You weren't tough enough on us. Practice was not good today. You need to get after the freshmen, or you need to get after the seniors, or you need to get after. Haley Hagsman told me one time, why aren't you on me? Why aren't you on my case as much as you used to be? I'm like, well, you're an All-American. You're about to turn pro. I'm not really sure if I have a reason to get upset with you. So sometimes they come in and they're like, come on, we need that fire. We need that. And those are the kind of, players that each player recruits. And here's a good tip for the players out there about to be recruited.
Thank you for tuning in to the iATAC Soccer Podcast. You've just listened to the first 20 minutes of our podcast episode. If you value the insight shared in this episode, you can unlock the full version by visiting iatacsoccer.com and subscribing to our premium membership.
As a premium member, you'll get full access to all guest episodes, AMA sessions, plus access to our online digital and on-field player and coach development programs, all for $9.95 a month. Lastly, your support will help us to provide high-quality soccer content without relying on ads.